Good morning, and my name is Lynette. For those of you who don't know me, I am the coach for World Without Wine, and I am delighted to be here again this morning and to answer some questions, explore some tools that I have received during my coaching conversations. And today I'm actually really delighted to be exploring three questions which I received from our Silver Spring tribe. And they are awesome questions. I'm going to make them quite personal because I often think that when we talk about personal experience and how to apply the tools, sometimes it makes more sense or it gives more clarity. So, good morning to those of you who are joining me this morning. I can't see anybody yet, but it's all good. And I'm going to just have a quick deep breath. Oh, oh, as I invite you all here with me today as we explore these questions. And I'm going to dive into the first question, which I received. And the first question: when faced with emotional distress, people develop a problem with alcohol and use the substance as a coping mechanism. A newly sober person may relapse if he or she is suffering from emotional distress, especially if the person has not been exposed to or learned coping skills which are needed to handle emotional demands. For example, COVID-19 being one of them. As a coach, maybe a 4 or 5 step what to do when feeling overwhelmed by an emotional issue, work pressure, etc. This is such a good question, and because our emotional overwhelm happens often, and especially now with COVID, COVID has a pandemic will bring a different kind of stress and anxiety to us. And we may have thought we've managed our coping strategies and haven't. One of my friends actually shared quite a cute little meme with me at the beginning of lockdown, where she was saying, okay, now we are having quarantinis. I'm like, quarantinis. So quarantini is a martini, and then you add in some spirulina and some vitamin C and maybe a dash of vodka and some orange juice, and you kind of think you are good to go. So I just love that example because during the day we are sanitizing, we are buying often the best sanitizer, we're taking supplements to boost our immune system, we are wearing masks, we are social distancing, and then at night we are kind of, okay, let me just press the escape button and have my quarantini. So that is not the coping mechanism I'm going to share with you this morning. In fact, I'm going to ask you to rather apply the principle of mindfulness, taking a pause. What's really going on here? And for those of you who've coached with me, will know that I am all for the think, feel, act, result approach. So how does it really work? And we know it maybe intellectually that because when my coach said to me, your thoughts create your feelings, your feelings drive your actions, and that creates your results. I could make sense of that, but I tried to solve everything in my head. And I had to learn to really become the observer, become the anthropologist or the scientist, and collect the data. What was really going on for me? So this week, once again, I was in total overwhelm. And I knew this because I had this funny anxiety sensation when I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And the thought was, maybe I should have woken up earlier. Why? Because I had a million things to do. I had no time. So often overwhelm comes from the feeling of not having enough time. And I laugh at it now because I phoned my friend and I said to her, I've got a million things to do. And then I realized, hey, okay, maybe this is a time to take a step back And especially when I received this question, I thought, what a beautiful opportunity for me to become the anthropologist. What am I really feeling? Where am I feeling this overwhelm? And I just sat with my body, I sat with myself, and I located the feeling. It was like really all over my solar plexus. It was that feeling of I needed to do something and I didn't get to it. And I knew it was my friend anxiety that was back. What was my anxiety all about? And I was feeling it and I was giving it a color and I was toning it down and breathing. One of our best tools is to really breathe into the feeling, the discomfort of it. And then the thought came, I don't have enough time. I've got a million things to do. What if I don't meet people's expectations? All of that, and I was driving my anxiety. And then I realized, actually, hang on here, how much do I really have to do? And when I really broke it down, there were no more than 6 important things for me to do that day, 3 of them crucial. And I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking, I've got a million things to do. So once I caught that, I was, okay, what is really true? And that's a beautiful Byron Katie method where she asks, what is the truth? Is it really true that you have a million things to do? No. So who would I be without that thought? I wouldn't be in overwhelm. I would be in action and say, okay, these are the things I need to do. I would feel like I have the capacity to do them rather than going into overwhelm. And what did I used to do before? I used to press the escape button and drink. And what that does is it doesn't really take away the overwhelm or the problem. It just covers it. And I like the analogy of it's like when guests come to your house. I think Lucy was saying this to me. I just put everything in drawers or put a big blanket over it, and then nobody really knows and nobody can see it. So what we're doing is we're just covering up what is actually the problem. But whereas if we decluttered it and we got everything out the way, we would feel so much better because once we take the cover off or we open the drawers, it's still all there. And it's really the same with the reason why we drink. The overwhelm, the anxiety, the problems that we face, they are still all there, regardless of whether we are covering them up for the moment with some alcohol. So what is the 4 steps that I'm talking about here? It's really getting in touch, pressing that pause button, dropping into your body, scanning your body, locating the feeling, feeling it, breathing it in and out. What does it feel like? Where is it? Maybe it's got a color. And then putting pen to paper and saying, what are my thoughts? And writing all the thoughts that are coming up as you're doing this body scan. And then analyzing the thoughts with the data and knowing, okay, that's the thought. Again, there it is. That's what's causing the overwhelm. I have a million things to do. And what are people going to think of me if I let them down? When I can then reframe that thought, it's not true. I have 6 things to do. I can do them. I'm in control. Then I have a different result. I get into action rather than into procrastination. So that's just a little very quick tip for you in terms of what to do with overwhelm. And part of the reason why often we don't learn these skills is because we try and distract ourselves or to resist what's going on for us. The clue is really allow, embrace. So the next question, the second question is, and I hope that answered the question. So leave your comments in the comment box. I see Marlene is here and Gigi. I think it's Gigi or Gigi. And thank you for sending me so much love this morning, for all being here. Give me your comments. It's lovely to see you. And from what I just shared, was there a nugget? If you had a nugget, share it. Thank you, Colin. Yes, breathing seems so effortless, yet we forget to pay attention. Very true. Marianne, you and I both big mindfulness um, warriors. We are all for mindfulness. Yeah, thank you. So the next question that I'm going to dive into came as a result of the first question. And it is there any research correlating whether some personality types are more able to develop new neural paths sooner, easier, more sustainable than others? Beautiful question. And this morning in my NEA class, we learned a new routine. And our teacher Zoe said, guys, ladies, this morning we are building a new NEA neural pathway. And I thought, what a brilliant opportunity for me to really go back into what it means to build a new neural pathway. So the first thing is it isn't about personality. There's not some personalities that can easier cope with a new neural pathway or changing a behavior. What I realized so strongly again this morning is that it's all about the traits that we that we learn and that we explore and that we almost what is the right word? I'm searching here this morning. The, that we generate and that we really work at creating for ourselves. So, what are these traits that we need to develop within ourselves so that we can create new neural pathways? Well, the first one is being okay with discomfort. And again, this morning, the first thing, we suddenly had new routines, new steps with new hand movements going in there. My brain was not wiring and firing like it usually does in a NEA class. I was like really having to concentrate and find my base. So Zoe was saying, just find your base. So the first trait is really to be able to learn to pause, evaluate, find your center. And then from there, start exploring. It's going to be uncomfortable. So, so the first part was I found myself feeling a little bit frustrated. And I remember the first time I went to a NEA class, how frustrated I was at the end because I just couldn't get it. And this time it's all good. My brain is healing. My brain is learning a new neural pathway. It's so good for me to do this. Let me just embrace it. So part of the trait that we need to develop is allowing, embracing versus resisting, and being okay with a new routine. For example, I often come across clients, and this was me as well, where I would say, this is how I do things. This is my morning routine. This is my evening routine, and nothing changes it. And the minute I now get into that kind of thinking and that kind of rigidity, I ask myself, how is this maintaining my flexibility? Why not try something new or bring something new in every now and then just to create a new neural pathway, to create new aliveness, new flexibility? So the traits are, and that we learned this morning was you need to be okay with learning a new routine and then be flexible. Be flexible with yourself. When things work or they don't work, it's okay. And then suddenly, when the steps come in, it's beautiful. For that moment that you've got it, you can find your flow. So this morning in my NEA class, I only found my flow maybe in 3 or 4 times, but that was enough to give me the joy of I got it. I just got it for those moments and then I lost it again. It's the same when we create a new neural pathway and unlearn the habit of not drinking. So embrace, allow, become flexible, become agile, dodge the bullets, know the triggers, oh, okay, that didn't quite work. Oh my gosh, become agile, flexible, learn to balance. Suddenly, out of nowhere, we had to do these balancing acts, and I was completely off balance. And I loved it because it was just showing me where I needed to focus. And when I focused, I could get the balance. And then we looked at strings. So when we create a new neural pathway, we create stamina and strength. We create the confidence within ourselves that whatever life challenges come at us, we can face them, we can overcome them. We have the stamina, we have the flexibility, we have the agility, and we have the ability to bring it all together into flow. So those are the traits. And the one that is the most important one that I'm going to end off with on this question is empathy and compassion. Creating a new neural pathway is not going to work if you're looking at it through the lens of judgment versus the lens of love. When we're judging ourselves, it's like we are all about what's wrong with us. Why can't I get that step? Why can't I just get that habit of not drinking? Why can't I drink like everyone else? What's wrong with me? I'm a loser. I'm weak. I'm just a total flop. And there's so much judgment and there's so much shame when that is what's trying to motivate the new neural pathway. You're always going to go back to drinking. I promise you, because nobody can handle that feeling. Versus looking through the lens of love and compassion for yourself. I'm human. All this discomfort that I'm feeling is what everybody feels. It's part of the human condition. And failure is not dying. Failure is just a learning. And if we are embracing the learning of what happened when I had that bottle of wine last night, when I told myself I wasn't going to, and then I did. It's taking the learning in the moment. So my friends, that is what I've got for you in terms of building a new neural pathway. What are the traits that we need? Again, would love to see your comments and what you think about that. And the last question for today is, when I looked at Lucy's calendar, I thought, geez, that's a lot of days. So I was thinking of asking tips on the one day at a time theory. Oh man, that is such a beautiful, beautiful observation question. For me personally, I'm very careful about what are we measuring with the calendar. Are we noting down, what milestones are we noting down? Are we just noting down, oh, I didn't drink last night, so therefore I'm good, I'm great, I did it last night, and then, oh, yesterday I didn't, so now I'm a failure, so now I don't get across. Then if that's the motivation for using a calendar, it's not going to work in the long term. It's not going to create the habit change in the long term, because you're going to be in resisting or being or people pleasing. So I'm going to be good, so then I feel better about myself, or I'm going to resist or distract myself. But what it's really about is that every day when you do cross and you say, today I hit a new milestone, the milestone is I had a learning. Today I sat with my urge to drink. Today I sat with my desire. I became the anthropologist. I learned, where was it coming from? Why did I want to drink? And that is really, if you're looking at the one day at a time theory that Mon asked me about, the one day at a time theory is about, for today, I want to learn what is really, really going on for me. What is it that I want that's in that glass of wine? And I think it's the Portland Institute of Processes that actually really came up with a beautiful process to teach people how to unlearn habits that they didn't want anymore, like smoking or over drinking. And what they would suggest is, and then again, it's rooted in mindfulness, that when you come home, you can actually sit down at the time that you usually would have your glass of wine and have your glass. Pretend, you can even, sometimes they say you can even pour wine in it. You look at it, you see the glass, and you go, okay, what am I feeling right now? And then you're being the scientist and the data collector and you're writing. writing it down. What am I feeling? What am I wanting this glass of wine to give me? What is it that I truly want from this glass of wine? Sit with it. Whatever comes up, write it down. And then smell it. And when you smell it, does it feel warm? Does it feel comforting? Is that what I'm wanting? Is that what I'm needing? Some connection? Is it a relief? Write it down. And what happens is, once you've gone through that process and then you put down the glass as if you've drunk it, and just imagine now that you are drinking it without drinking it, and you put it down, what they found is that most people had the same experience of what they were wanting, if it was a stress release, or it was just a warm, comfortable feeling or a connection, that they still had that, even though they actually did not drink the wine. So what is the learning from this? The learning is that whatever we need, we can generate from inside. Through our thinking and feeling, we can generate the emotions that we desire, that we want. It's all only about getting in touch with what it is what is it that I really, really want to feel right now? How do I generate that without alcohol? So yes, it can feel daunting when you see a calendar with 66 days. And again, we like to catastrophize, like so many days, how am I going to do it? Get very clear about what are your thoughts? What am I thinking right now? So what are you thinking when you see, thinking, am I going to fail? Can I make it? I'm going to have to white knuckle it through it. I'm going to have to use my willpower. That's already a clue. And and the reason why I talk about this a lot is because I took many breaks in my career of drinking, many. And I remember always going back to drinking and flip-flopping. But the year that I took a break, where I white knuckled it and I said, I'm not going to drink anymore. I'd had a really embarrassing encounter with alcohol and myself, and I just had so much shame that I managed to white knuckle it for a year. But what was really interesting for me now, looking back at that year, was that that was the year that I created the most credit card debt. And then I was just like, oh, I might as well just start drinking again because now I'm so stressed because of all this debt. And I remember my husband even saying to me at the time, you know, you're buying all these new things and you're buying, and most of these things weren't even for me, they were gifts for friends. So the motivation that I had and was to please others. The reason why I stopped drinking was to please other people. So it was all about my husband and my family and what people would think of me. And then I just changed from getting my approval to shopping. So that's why just distracting ourselves with another habit that is an understanding really how does the reward system work in our brain is crucial. So when we learn how the brain works and how we reward ourselves and how the pleasure reward system works in the brain, then we can get very clear about if it's health I'm wanting, or if it is a feeling of well-being that I'm wanting, how can I generate that within myself without having to shop and go to overconsumption or overeating? There's so many other ways that we actually buffer our lives away. So if we don't, or Netflix, if we don't want to do that, what else can we do to generate the small, real pleasures? So just to share with you some of the small pleasures that I now have brought into my life is green juice. And I'm just going to have a drink because I'm thirsty. Mm. And it feels so good and healthy. And I feel like it imbues my whole body with health. So I brought in green juice. I have my oils. So when I feel like this is joy, and so when I'm feeling slightly edgy, I know I can move my mood by just sipping like a little bit of oil. And it's amazing how that goes into the brain, into the pleasure, lifts the mood, and gives me a sense of well-being. So I'm going to challenge you and invite you this morning to think about different ways that you can bring small pleasures into your life. And rather than the ones that are instantaneous and have to do with overconsumption or with alcohol, and get in touch with what is it that you really want. Have radical compassion with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Nurture yourself. Be inquisitive. Be curious. These 66 days of taking a break, every day that you embrace the feeling of discomfort, when you embrace the feeling of it's hard, and you do the work and you become the scientist, you're building the new neural pathway, that's a milestone. And you can really tick that off in your calendar and say, today was a milestone. And after 66 days, there will be a new neural pathway, which is not that just that I've distracted myself with something else. I've actually created a new neural pathway. I now know how to generate my own pleasure from within, and that it's got nothing to do with approval or how other people see me. It's got to be with my own inner sense of calm, peace, and clarity. So my beautiful tribe, that is what I have for you this morning. And yeah, quarantine, Marlene. Okay, I'm sorry, was my sound very faint this morning? Okay, all good now. Okay, great. Because I sometimes have had a sound issue. Yes. Yeah, the blanket over the mess and an analogy. Let's just sort out our mess, our brains, get clarity in our brains. That's what it is about. And scanning for me helps. Oh yes, Colin, and for me as well. It's like really, really just in the mornings, even when I wake up, to really just do a body scan. What's really, really going on for me today? And thank you, Flick. Yeah, and thank you for the questions. I'm so glad you made it. And yeah, oh, yeah, Di, I know that feeling of overwhelm. And, even after all of this work that I do, I still catch myself in that. And it's all okay. It's just that when we know that we can manage it and how to manage it through the think, feel, act cycle. That's our power. When we give power to alcohol, then we take power away from ourselves. And we actually have the power to steer our life. Yeah, Chantal, just remember to breathe. When the overwhelm comes, breathing is one of our most powerful natural techniques that we can just anytime, any moment, just pause and breathe. Yes, thank you, Berlin. Great reminder to challenge our thoughts with evidence. Absolutely. Is it true? Is it really true? And another one that I really love is, who would I be without my story? Yes. So Colin is saying that she finds a major stumbling block to finding flexibility for me is self-doubt. When it shows up hidden behind fear, I remind myself not to play small. Absolutely. And every time you risk, every time we try something new and we eventually get it, we build that muscle stronger, that I can do it. It's okay if I fail. We show up and we play a much bigger game. So true. Yeah, the flexibility of change. It's a big one for me. Yeah. Today I only got it for a few minutes, Janet. And it's so beautiful it was such a beautiful reminder to me this morning in the NEO class that building what it actually really means to build a new neural pathway. Sometimes we forget what the early stages of our sobriety was really, really like. And when we get reminded how uncomfortable it is to not be in flow and not to have our go-to habits, and to challenge ourselves. Uh, it was I'm actually feeling so alive after that class this morning. I feel like, wow, my neurons are firing and wiring a bit out of whack, but they came together every now and then. That's what it's about. That's what life's about. Yes. And empathy and compassion. Yeah. Live and love with passion and compassion. There's a beautiful mindfulness coach called Tara Brach and practitioner, and she does beautiful, beautiful meditations on, and she has a process which she calls RAIN, which is radical compassion, allowing and becoming intuitive, inquiry, and she talks about compassionate and kind inquiry, what's really going on, and then she goes into the last part of RAIN, the N standing for nurture. Very important. How do we nurture? We nurture ourselves by talking to ourselves through the love lens, through the compassionate lens. Okay, so wow, thank you everybody for being here, for all your beautiful comments. Yes, I just love that. And I feel so, so blessed to be here this morning and to share with you. Please keep the questions coming. Um, any questions you've got for my next Facebook Live, WhatsApp them to me, put them in the comment box, and have a beautiful, beautiful Saturday. Go out there, try something new, fail at it, get up and try it again. I invite you, I challenge you, embrace this day, embrace being alive. Thank you. Have a beautiful day.